My first guest played with the Gap Band, played with Loose Ends, played with Diana Ross, played with, the list goes on, okay? Formerly from the Gap Band, Mr. Alan Hart. Give it up for Alan, please. Come on in, brother. Have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. Alan.
How you doing?
Real good friend of mine.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Go back some time.
Oh, without a doubt.
I met him as far as while I was bowling. I had one of them moments where I just had to go out and bowl by myself. Next thing you know, he comes up and says, you got a ball? And that's how we met, you know what I mean? Didn't know who he was, you know, and we just kind of chilled and clicked on from there. Been in my life ever since.
That's right.
Okay. So tell me, Chicago, that's where you're from.
Born and raised in Chicago.
Born and raised in Chicago, right, you know what I mean?
South side of Chicago.
Your daddy was your influence?
Yes, he was. He was a
Tell me about that.
musician.
Okay. Who did he play for?
My dad was a bass player. He played with Muddy Waters, Jimmy Reed, Staple Singers, the song I'll Take You
better
There.
watch yourself now.
Oh, yeah. Staple Singers, Howlin' Wolf, many of the great blues artists. So he was influenced for my musical career. As far as giving me inspiration, you know, from a child.
Okay, so tell me about those early days as a child.
Yeah, sure. I started playing bass at the age of 4 years old. I was originally a bass player. From there, he bought me a Stratocaster when I was 6. So I moved to guitar. And then I started playing piano and keyboards at the age of 14 in high school. So I put the bass down and the guitar. And from there, then I picked up the saxophone. I started playing woodwinds.
Oh, so you start playing everything.
Correct.
So you're just naturally gifted, you know, a musician here, huh?
I guess you could say that.
Who were some of your early talents that influenced you as far as, or took you under their wing?
Oh, sure. I mean? Yeah, some of the, well, coming out
especially while you was on the road, because you were on the road early, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I played with the Shy Lights when I was 15. Mr. Louis Farrakhan, you know, was leader of the Islamic Nation.
Right. Nation of Islam.
Nation of Islam. But a lot of my influences coming out of Chicago, you know, I was influenced by jazz. Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, that type of stuff. We were like jazz musicians and stuff. You know, that was my aspiration to be a jazz musician.
Right.
So from there, I studied classical, you know, self-taught and stuff. Then, of course, the early groups, Earth, Wind, and Fire, you know. And at the time, I was still in Chicago. I was still in high school, but the Gap Band was one of my influences as well. Which I never thought I would be able to, you know, come about to play with them. So I went on tour with some members from Cameo and stuff overseas, and Shaka Khan, with Tony Mate and them in Tokyo.
Larry Blackman.
Correct. Yeah. So I came back from Japan off tour, and I stopped in California. I was supposed to go back to Chicago. But it was so beautiful out here in California with the weather, the trees, and everything. You know, just the climate period. I decided to stay out here, and one day I stumbled into the studio of the Gap Band, Total Experience Records. And that's how I became acquainted with them, and been with them since until the label was shut down by Mr. Lonnie Simmons.
Okay. So,
sure.
You work with Loose Ends?
Yes.
Now, did you do that overseas or here? Because, you know, they're overseas.
That was here.
That was here?
That was here in the United States, yes.
Okay.
They currently still want me to come overseas with them over in London and stuff to pursue some other ventures with new artists to break out over, you know, over there in London and Europe area region. But yeah, I performed with them at the Keyshawn Johnson place at the time for the 2000 millennium when it came in.
Now, you know, since the evolution of music, where it has, you know, kind of dropped off when it comes to the, you know, the band era of the 70s.
Correct.
You remember that.
Oh, for sure.
To me, that was the greatest decade of music.
Yes,
it was the band era,
yes,
if you ask me. And now it's a lot of backstabbing, cutthroat.
Most definitely.
And to me, the music is not nowhere, you know, comparable or even as good as it was back then.
Correct.
You know, that's what is your insight of the
sure.
music and where it's at today?
I understand your question. Well, to me, as far as the music of today, you know, with the hip hop scene, you know, I'm part of that genre as well. You know, with groups of the Outlaws. Excuse me, it's a little warm. You know, with Tupac's group. With technology, with the instrumentation, it doesn't take much talent. You know, they pretty much have equipment set up now with the new technology that they have out where just press a button and you can just make about any kind of sound or function that's possible.
Is it still important to learn how to play?
Oh, most definitely.
With
I
that
would say
technology?
so, yes.
I mean, as far as industry-wise, I mean,
Yes.
you got the industry going to this phase of where studios used to be, multi-million-dollar studios.
Correct.
All you need now is a little computer. And
That's right.
And you're in the game.
That's right. And it's kind of sad because, I really feel that the musicians that really have, honed their craft, done their homework, they don't get the recognition that, say the DJs do, but turning turntables and stuff, but I respect them too because it's art as well and stuff. But as a outright full-fledged musician that, encounters the studies, the craft art of woodshed and what you call,
Right.
practicing,
Right.
I used to practice 18 hours a day and stuff, when I first started playing. And, the technology has taken advantage of that in the sense that I feel that this generation, they would have a lot to offer if they were hands-on application as far as instrumentation, besides technology-wise of it, pressing buttons and
Right.
pre-made beats,
Right.
pre-prepared loops. They call them
Right.
loops,
Right.
8-bar loops and stuff.
Because
But,
to me, there's no more, say, creativity. Because back in the day, you had to come with originality,
correct.
creativity,
Hmm.
uniqueness,
Most definitely.
and not sound like anybody else.
You have to have your own sound. That was very important.
But today,
Hmm.
there's no creativity.
No.
There's-
Little or none.
There's uniqueness.
Right.
But if you know how you want to chop,
wanna consider it
Right,
that.
right, exactly. You know. So
I am a fan of today's hip hop, and the genre, from the pop to the rock as well.
well, don't get me wrong, because
I-
I mean, hip hop is good. I guess as long as it's making money.
Sure. Well,
Because I thought when Grandmaster Flash came in back in the day, and African Bambaataa and Kool Moe Dee and and Karis One,
Right.
I said 2 years I'm gonna give it,
Right.
Because R&B was so much of our soul.
That's right.
Okay, and back to my original subject.
sure.
When you talk about as far as feeding the soul with music, does that really feed the soul, or that just feeds the flesh?
I would say I would think it would feed the flesh because it's more cosmetic. I would call it cosmetic music, to be exact.
Right.
And in the sense that there's nothing really out the soul. You're not